Hey everyone, I'm Chris and this is the story of the film Dallas Buyers Club. 1985, Dallas, Texas. An electrician named Ron Woodruff lives a hedonistic lifestyle, drinking, using drugs, and having many hookups. While at a rodeo, he makes a bet with some of the rodeo goers but loses and runs away from them and into a cop, Tucker, who is a friend of his. He asks Tucker to arrest him and when he refuses, punches him to get cuffed so he can get away from his pursuers. The cop then drives Woodruff home, warning him about the ramifications of his actions which he ignores. When he attempts to get out, he stumbles and falls, and when inside his home, he feels weak and passes out. Later, we see him at work in an oil field alongside two of his friends about possibly working somewhere else before he is called away due to an accident. A Hispanic worker has gotten his leg stuck in the rail. Woodruff refers to the man with a racial slur before he goes over to the electrical panel to shut down the platform, which gets him shocked and knocked out. Now at Dallas Mercy, he meets Dr. Savard and Dr. Sachs. Savard diagnoses him with HIV and is given an estimate of 30 days left to live. Woodruff is in denial at first as he is heterosexual, but upon more research at a library, he discovers that intravenous drug use and having unprotected sex makes you at risk as well. Back at the hospital, Savard and Sachs are at a meeting with a representative of Avanex regarding AZT as a possible treatment for HIV. While they both have their doubts about the safety of the drug, especially Sachs, the FDA has already given the company permission to move to human trials. Woodruff, desperate for a cure, meets with Sachs to buy AZT or some other alternative. However, she refuses to give him any drugs, citing that AZT is in testing and that the alternatives are unapproved by the FDA. Unable to convince her to give him anything, he leaves for the bar and he quickly finds himself ostracized by his friends. They've mistaken him for being gay, which leads into an altercation and him cussing at everyone at the bar. Later at a strip club, he prays in front of some candles, begging God for more time and how he's not ready to die yet. There, he meets with one of the hospital workers, who he strikes a deal with. However, when he takes the AZT, his health sharply declines due to him abusing it, unhelped by his usage of cocaine. This cycle continues for some days before he is cut off due to the AZT being locked up by the hospital. Instead, he is given an address to a doctor in Mexico. Thinking he is being played, he lashes out against the hospital worker before passing out again. Waking back up in the hospital, he meets Rayon, a trans woman who is also HIV positive, as well as addicted to cocaine. She helps Rayon out when he gets a sudden cramp in his leg, despite his attitude and contempt for her. He gets dressed, leaves the hospital, and drives to Mexico, ignoring Sachs' protests. He sobs in his car on day 29 before finally arriving at the address on day 30. At the improvised hospital, he meets Vass, a former doctor whose license was revoked for his treatment of AIDS. He refuses to give Woodruff AZT because he believes it is toxic to the human body. Instead, he is given other medications like DDC and peptide T, as well as vitamins and minerals. At the hospital, Sachs is growing increasingly doubtful of the safety and effectiveness of AZT but cannot dissuade Savard from stopping the test. 3 months pass and Woodruff's health has improved, although he has now developed AIDS. After Vass gives Woodruff some other drugs, the two strike up to import the unapproved but not illegal drugs to the U.S. Woodruff disguises himself as a priest but is pulled over for an interrogation by FDA agent Richard Barkley. However, he is able to sneak the drugs over the border when he lies about it only being for personal use. In this venture, he finds an unlikely business partner with Rayon, who in exchange for more customers gets 25% of the profit. The two set up the Dallas Buyers Club at an apartment, charging $400 for admission to circumvent the illegality surrounding selling unapproved drugs to the public. Over this business, Woodruff and Rayon start to develop a friendship and he gradually begins to respect homosexuals and other similar outcasts. Such as when he and Rayon visit a grocery store when they encounter one of his old friends, TJ, who is disgusted by Rayon, and when he refuses to shake her hand, Woodruff forces him to. Woodruff makes a trip to Japan after having made a deal with one of the doctors to import interferon to the US. However, the deal falls through due to them no longer being able to do so, but he finds a different Japanese doctor who's willing to order it for him. Upon his return back to Dallas, Woodruff starts to have a heart attack caused by overdosing on alpha interferon. He is saved when he is brought back to the hospital and has now caught the attention of Savard and the FDA, who are now intent on shutting his business down. Savard confronts Sachs, who does admit there is some benefit to Buyers Club, citing positive changes, but Savard refuses to listen, still adamant on shutting Woodruff down. Having his supply now confiscated by the FDA, he flies all around the world for more. Sachs also visits the club, questioning the practices, but is told by Woodruff that the medicine he takes works not just for him, but for all the members. He also gets a visit from the IRS, having been audited by them. We see him later on a date with Sachs, and he gives her a painting of wildflowers that was done by his mother. He asks her to keep an eye on Savard before the conversation changes to something else. The two bond over a discussion about their parents and their life, eventually becoming friends. The club is soon raided by the FDA, having been permitted to do so by a court order, and fines Woodruff. To further discourage him, the FDA makes a change to their rules, making any unapproved drugs illegal. He and Rayon make plans at a bar, giving Tucker a box of peptide tea to help with his father's Alzheimer's. Now that the club is losing money due to the raids, Rayon visits her father in men's clothing and begs him to give her money. She also sells off her life insurance policy and gives the funds to Woodruff, who discovers that she is dying. He is also helped out by two club members who provide him a large home as their new base of operations, free of charge. Before going back to Mexico for more drugs, he visits Sachs in her office and invites her to go to Mexico with him. He does this to distract her, stealing her prescription pad and to forge scripts for the drugs. While Rayon spends time with her significant other, Sunflower, she suddenly starts to cough up blood. In tears, she refuses to go to the hospital, crying how she doesn't want to die, before eventually being convinced by Sunflower to go to the hospital. In Mexico, Woodruff sees Vass again and learns about the research paper done in France that disproves any improvement made with AZT. Vass also shares with him about the secretion from a caterpillar which could also serve as medicine for HIV. He returns home with the drugs, forging scripts on the plane. When he comes back to the club, he learns of Rayon's death and becomes distraught. He becomes aggressive with Savard, who he accuses of being a murderer, before being escorted outside by security guards. Sachs, also in grief, visits Woodruff in the club, and the two have a small argument before Woodruff hands her the same research paper he got from Vass. Heading home, she reads the paper and hangs the painting, smashing several holes in the wall out of anger before telling one of the hospital nurses to lower the AZT dosage to a minimum of 600 milligrams. Woodruff again interrupts the support group meeting, getting into an argument with Barkley before being forced to leave by security. Back at the hospital, Sachs is called in by Savard and is asked to resign. She refuses, stating that they'll have to fire her instead. Woodruff, unable to treat his medical conditions, has an episode in the middle of an intersection. In a daze, he steps out of his car before being escorted by Tucker, who gives him some peptide tea. 6 months pass. Woodruff travels to San Francisco to a court hearing against the FDA. While the court doesn't have the power to stop the FDA, the judge does allow Woodruff to be able to procure drugs for his own use. When he returns home, he is greeted by cheers and congratulations by the Dallas Club members and Sachs. The movie ends with Woodruff, now healthy enough to get on a bull and ride. He would succumb to HIV and AIDS on September 12, 1992, 7 years after his diagnosis. In real life, AZT was an effective drug for HIV at the time, and it helped end the 100% mortality rate of AIDS. On the other hand, the drugs used by Woodruff weren't as effective. DDC was effective, but it had many other harmful side effects than AZT. Peptide T was found to be largely ineffective in a randomized double-blind placebo test. After doctors told a man he only had 30 days to live, he did this and lived for 7 more years. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy this video. It promotes the channel and encourages us to produce more content.